I was wiping the last chalk line off our cafe menu when a stranger handed me a letter about the property transfer. The silk scarf I gave him on opening day was gone from the counter. In its place was a single receipt with his name alone. My hands froze mid-air, as if someone gripped me from the back of my neck. The space between me and what used to be us had gone hollow, like I had never existed. If he could vanish with everything after 18 years, what really defines a family betrayal story? My name is Beverly Moore. I am 65 years old. I live in a small town near the edge of Wisconsin, the kind with 2 traffic lights, where people drink coffee slowly and remember who poured the first cup of their day. I shared that life with a man named Thomas. We weren't legally married. Both of us had lived through divorces, and we told ourselves that love, when it's real, doesn't need a piece of paper. 17 years ago, we opened a little cafe together. We chose the spot on purpose. It was a sunny corner that caught the morning light and stayed warm through the afternoon, right next to a hair salon, across from the library, and 1 street down from the health clinic. We didn't make much, but we had something richer than money. We had customers, real ones, people who came every morning for a warm place. A gentle nod, a familiar smell. I took care of the kitchen. Thomas handled the customers. He talked more, I baked more. He managed the bank accounts, filed the licenses, signed the forms. I never once asked to see the paperwork. Every now and then, someone would ask if we'd ever sell. The place had charm, retro booths, checkered tile, soft jazz. People said it reminded them of places from their childhood. Selling the cafe never crossed my mind. At least, not mine. Lately, Thomas had been stepping out more often. He said he was fishing or meeting old card buddies. Sometimes he came back wearing cologne. When I asked, he chuckled and said even retired men wore aftershave these days. In early March, he said an old friend was dying out east. He wanted to say goodbye. I packed him banana bread. I ironed his travel scarf, the same one I gave him the day we opened the cafe. 1 week after he left, a man I didn't recognize walked into the cafe. He was polite but firm. He handed me legal documents. I had 30 days to vacate. The cafe, the equipment, the name, all of it had been sold. I thought it was a scam. But the stamps were real. The signature Thomas, on every page. I ran to the back office. The drawer with our receipts empty. The photo from our opening day gone. In the lockbox, a utility bill past due. And the scarf, folded neatly, as if it had never been worn. I called his number, no signal. 3 days later, a message from a friend, a photo, Tom and Lena, in Vietnam, smiling under red lanterns, like they had no past to return to. Lena, blonde, bright lipstick, loud laugh. She came in on Tuesdays, ran a nail salon 1 street over, 20 years younger than me. I searched every drawer, every email, pulled statements, bank accounts, licenses, business filings, all in his name, not one in mine. I saw a local lawyer, 2nd floor above the pharmacy. He listened, then asked, "Were you ever legally married?" I shook my head. He nodded. "Then by law, he owns it. All of it." I couldn't speak. Outside the window, the world continued, but I had been cut from it. The next morning, I opened the cafe, poured coffee, watched people come and go, but I wasn't in the room anymore. Not really. My lips cracked, too dry for sound. I sank to the floor, arms hanging, fingers numb. I turned on the waffle iron, mixed batter, forgot the sugar, let it burn, didn't even open a window. This wasn't just financial infidelity. It was erasure. Every morning shift, every plate, every quiet goodbye wiped clean. It was emotional betrayal, silent, calculated, complete. I whispered, not to anyone, but to the empty room. We picked every cup together, every chair. Why didn't I think to put my name on the deed? This wasn't a mistake. This was a family betrayal story. And I was never legally family. We lived like husband and wife. We ran a business together. We built something from scratch and shared every early morning. But in the eyes of the law, I did not exist. The greatest mistake I made wasn't loving the wrong man. It was trusting personal devotion more than legal protection. Thomas used that trust to take control of everything. That was betrayal, plain and sharp. But I also let it happen, quietly. Over the years, I never asked whose name was on the license. I never insisted on a written agreement. I never checked where my place stood in the eyes of the law. In trying to keep the peace, I had erased my own rights. I could not sue for half the cafe. I could not demand compensation like a wife, because I wasn't one. But there were still paths open, ways to fight for a portion of what I had built, with my hands and my time. First, I met with a civil attorney. He showed me how to file a claim based on unjust enrichment. I began gathering receipts, equipment purchases, old menus in my handwriting, emails exchanged with vendors. Regular customers wrote letters, sharing how they had seen me running the kitchen daily for nearly 2 decades. Together, we filed a petition to ask the court for fair compensation based on my contributions. Then I took another step. We filed a request to impose a constructive trust, a legal motion asking the court to freeze any remaining funds from the cafe sale, to hold Thomas accountable as a trustee of property we had built together. He would have to prove the money had nothing to do with my work, and that he could not do completely. Break time, see you. 6. But the process was long, and I was tired. I reached out to the local elder legal aid office. They connected me with a volunteer lawyer. She had handled similar cases. She introduced me to a support group of older women who had also been erased, not by strangers, but by partners. We shared paperwork, advice, quiet tears over weak coffee. I was no longer alone. This was not just a cheating husband story. It was a deeper kind of harm, the kind that targets trust built over years. It was elder financial abuse, wrapped in romance and routine, carried out by someone who knew exactly where my blind spots were. In the end, I did not recover everything, but I forced him to answer to the law. I forced myself to climb out from a silence I had lived in for too long. Break time, 0. 4s. There is no full justice when you have to fight for the right to be seen, but sometimes, being seen at last is the first kind of justice we get. This is what a family betrayal story looks like, when it is written not in anger, but in fact, I moved to a smaller town, one without stoplights, the kind where neighbors wave from porches, and no one rushes anywhere. There's a library on Main Street and a white church that opens its doors every Monday morning without fail. It is quiet here, but not lonely. I started baking again, not for money, not to run a business. This time, to teach. Every Thursday afternoon, I hold a free baking class at the community center kitchen. Most of the women are widowed, or live alone. Some come for company. Some come for the scent of cinnamon. I come because I still have something to offer. I don't own a cafe anymore, but I do have a little space in the back of the library's kitchen, a stove that clicks when it lights, a long wooden table, a drawer filled with mismatched utensils. It is enough, more than enough. Every waffle I serve now comes with a story, not of loss but of endurance. I also began to study, not for a diploma, not to be a lawyer, but to understand. I read about property laws, learned how to check a deed, how to request a business filing, how to tell if a contract protects both parties or just one. I will never be legally blind again. I heard Thomas never came back to Wisconsin. Someone said he was sued in Florida. Another bad deal, another woman trying to find her way out. But I no longer care how that story ends. Some people leave not to punish you, but to give you space to become someone stronger. Break time, $0. 6s. I am no longer the keeper of a cafe. I am the keeper of myself. Every loaf I bake now is not a continuation, it is a beginning. Tonight, do something simple but vital. Look at the documents tied to your life. Who owns what? Whose name is on the title? If you are living with someone without a marriage license, write down what you have contributed. Find a legal advisor. Learn what protections you do or do not have. If you have ever believed that time is enough to earn you rights, I am here to tell you it isn't. Only the law stands when love walks away. Share this story with a woman you care about. Sometimes, a warm waffle and a well-timed warning can save an entire life. Break time. 066. This was my family betrayal story. May yours never have to be written.